is witnessing escalating violence. Protests in Kathmandu have claimed 22 lives now in the last 24 hours, including 2 more protesters that were killed earlier today in Kalimati. There are 90 people that are being treated at the civil service hospital. Demonstrators have attacked the former Prime Minister Sher, Bahadur Deuba, and Foreign Minister Arzu, Rana, Deuba. Gautam Mukherjee is on the telecast with me. Gautam, the death toll has now increased to 22. 2 more protesters have died in the vicinity of Kathmandu. Do you think there is a likely end to this ever-growing violence since yesterday? All right, so those are visuals on your screens, fresh visuals coming in where the demonstrators have actually gotten themselves arms and they are targeting the public offices, the Supreme Court, the Parliament of the country, as well as the residences of the top ministers, including the Prime Minister, the Foreign Minister, Home Minister, as well as the Congress Party Chief of Nepal. Unrest at this point of time that is continuing to escalate. There is a massive uproar amongst the locals, particularly the youth of the country, when they were targeted after they came out on the streets in large numbers to protest against the social media ban by the Nepalese government that has since been uplifted after that gruesome death of 19 people yesterday. 3 more added. That has brought the total to 22. Gautam Mukherjee is on the telecast with me. Gautam, is there any indication of stopping of these tumultuous demonstrations that have turned violent? We are understanding the KP Oli is likely to flee to Dubai. There are several other ministers from his cabinet that may also join him.
Well, I think all in all, it's excellent news for India because this communist government has been very hostile towards India, making trouble on this, making trouble on that. So to see the back of them may disappoint China, but it certainly doesn't disappoint India. The students have achieved this in record time, and Oli and his ministers apparently have stacked up so much money that they have probably anticipated this day and will not have a bad retirement in Dubai. Whether this leads to a democratic government that might even restore the monarchy, at least in a constitutional sense, we don't know. But if that were to happen, if there is a constitutional monarchy that is replaced, I can't see a full-fledged autocracy like before because that had a lot of problems of its own. But I do believe there is quite a move to bring back a Hindu government, to bring back a democracy, and to restore the monarchy in a constitutional manner. From the Indian point of view, I would suggest that we welcome all of this. And perhaps we can restore the relationship between India and Nepal, which has gone on for millennia, to something like it used to be.
Right,
I look forward to it.
Absolutely. Okay, all right, Gautam, there's more information pouring in. Let's shift our focus to that. This is, of course, Nepal's Gen Z protesters are rallying behind Kathmandu Mayor Balendra Shah, who's popularly known as Balin, as the interim Prime Minister following KP Sharma Oli's resignation. The engineer, rapper and mayor has voiced solidarity with the demonstrators, encouraging peaceful dialogue amidst escalating unrest. There are online campaigns that have emerged pushing for him to lead the nation, highlighting the influence of the youth and social media in Nepal's political landscape. He mentioned that he could not attend the protest due to age limits set by organizers, but stressed the importance of hearing the youth's voice. His rise signals a new wave of political engagement from the country's younger generation. Gautam, it's not even been 12 hours since the Prime Minister of the country has resigned, his resignation has been accepted. It is at this point of time being rumored that he has left the country, and already there is a new leader that is being propped reportedly by these protesters. He goes by the name of Balin. He is a local mayor. He is a rapper. He is a singer. He also is very young. It looks like he represents the younger generation, the youth of the country, and he is being propped as perhaps the next leader, the next Prime Minister of Nepal. What do you make of this?
Well, most of the population is under 30. It is not often that a population like that is able to overturn a government with minimum loss of life and within a day or two to make one amongst them the Prime Minister is, I think, a good move. Of course, he will need some experienced council, which I have no doubt he will organize. One thing I'm a little intrigued about, who accepted Oli's resignation and who is behind the appointment of the new Prime Minister. There must be an authority still in place.
No,
but
of course.
Which
Of
one?
course, the President has accepted the resignation, whose house itself has been ransacked. It has been burnt to the ground by the protesters. And while there has been no official recognition of a new Prime Minister, of course, it seems like there is this wave on social media platforms that the new leader that the youth at this point of time are leaning towards is this man by the name of Balin.
Well, all power to them. The president obviously is in no position to protest. I hope they replace him as soon as possible. There's no point in keeping elements of the old regime intact because they could make a lot of trouble. We do not want any kind of constitutional crisis to emerge because the president raises issues, the judiciary raises issues. The students must make sure to follow through and take out all the people to do with the old regime and send them packing to Dubai. Dubai should welcome all that money and all these crooks.
Right. Absolutely. This is not the first time that KP Oli has fled to Dubai. Is some information that I also wanted to impart to the viewers. Stay on with me, Gautam. We are getting to know that the Nepalese army has now rescued former Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deuba and his wife, who's the current Foreign Minister Arzu Rana Deuba, from an irate mob at their residence. Authorities have swiftly intervened to ensure their safety amidst rising tensions. Gautam, have you ever seen in your lifetime that the foreign minister's husband have been beaten to pulp by these protesters? There are news reports coming in of some other ministers that have also been beaten up. Such pent-up anger of the youth that it has resulted in such a display of violence. What has really caused the people of Nepal to come up in such large numbers, and why such discontentment against the government?
I think this has been a puppet regime through, as you said, more than one term of Oli, as well as other people before him. The Chinese have been manipulating this via their embassy, and they've principally bought the entire government so that they can salami slice at the land and do a number of other things which are strategically important to the Chinese, including the encirclement of India from the Nepalese side. Now, the youth and the ordinary people of Nepal have been ignored through all of this, but still, to be able to mount this in such a short time suggests a lot of behind-the-scenes planning, and also suggests that there may be a good deal of finance pumped in by forces as yet unknown to bring this about. The fact that various of the ministers have either been killed or roughed up and their houses burnt down and the parliament burnt down, shows the extent to which they had lost touch with the pulse of the people, and the people have now made it very clear. It is similar to what happened in Bangladesh, similar to what happened in Sri Lanka. So it does suggest that there is a pattern to this, and it may involve foreign forces for reasons that will become apparent as the time goes on. But
Right.
Insofar as it goes, from the Indian point of view, unless a worse government takes over, and it doesn't look like it with the youth involved, we welcome it.
Stay on with me, got more information pouring in. All right, Air India and Indigo both, the airlines have announced the cancellation of several flights on the Delhi-Kathmandu Delhi route. Even the Mumbai-Kathmandu route, there have been a number of flights that have been cancelled at this point of time as violent protests continue for the second day in different parts of Nepal. The Air India spokesperson has stated that they are closely monitoring the situation and will share further updates. Gautam, there, halting of flights at this point of time, a judicious move, keeping in mind there is such massive outrage, and of course the Nepalese army at this point of time very closely guarding the international airport in Kathmandu. Actually, though, that is the airport from where a number of choppers are being have been transporting the ministers, have transported KP Oli to unknown places. So, and also the fact that there are a lot of Indian nationals that reside or have been traveling for tourism purposes to Nepal. So, it's going to be a hard task for the government of India to also repatriate these and airlift these Indian nationals. So, how are those rescue operations going to be conducted?
I think it'll settle down in a day or two, but what seems to be suggested by this is the armed forces are still, in a sense, loyal to the government, and this could spell trouble unless they come over, and in all likelihood they will, because they are not likely to attack their own people. This always becomes a conundrum for the armed forces when you're asked to kill and attack your own people. So if the armed forces come across, then I would suggest that this situation will be brought under control by the new government in a fairly quick time, and we will be able to repatriate all our people and resume flights. So
okay.
It's not alarming from the Indian point of view. For the time being, I don't think there's any hostility towards Indian tourists or the Indian embassy or Indian officials who are in Nepal.
Right, absolutely. There's more information. India-Nepal border at Panitanki, West Bengal, has been kept on high alert amidst escalating unrest in Nepal following the government's social media ban. Police have set up a border post as well and increased deployment, with authorities monitoring cross-border movements closely to ensure security and prevent any spillover of violence. How important and integral does it become for the border police to ensure that the borders are protected so that there is no pilferage, there is no migration of people from Nepal into the other side of the border?
Well, I think it's very important. Every one of these upheavals, and we get thousands upon thousands, if not lakhs upon lakhs of refugees. Now, there's a lot of land borders, all over from different states into Bihar, into UP, into West Bengal, where being vigilant is all to the good. We don't really want another refugee crisis building, and there are always two sides to this. Who's running away? Why are they running away? Are they part of the old regime? Are they fleeing retribution from the new regime and the students? All this is not something that India wants to get mixed up in as far as possible. So to block the borders is altogether a good thing. Whether they'll be able to seal it, because there's very, very porous, there are a lot of foot routes, there are, many, many jungle routes and so on. So it's not easy to block the borders to Nepal. But at
Yes.
least the principal ones can be closed.
Right. Fresh updates coming in. There has been an indefinite curfew that has been imposed in Birganj, which is near the India-Nepal border, after widespread arson swept the city. Authorities have taken strict measures to control the situation and prevent further violence. They have urged residents to stay indoors until the situation stabilizes. Gautam, it is likely that more of these places in Nepal, where there has been a resurgent crowd that has turned violent in the last 24 to 48 hours, is going to be brought under curfew. Again, as you said, there is a likelihood that these protests are going to calm down in the next 24 hours or so. Again, how important does it become, since there is no prime minister, since the president's home has been vandalized and people are very angry and outraged with the current dispensation, even with the president? So how soon do you think there is going to be an appointment of an interim prime minister who is going to handle this chaos in a sensitive situation such as this?
I think the president should probably be coerced to appoint the suggested prime minister within a couple of hours today. The army must pledge allegiance to the new government as soon as possible. And if those two things happen, if the armed forces are with the new government and the prime minister is appointed, then he can start doing something about calming the situation within hours rather than days. But there is a question mark as to the loyalty of the army, which way it will jump, whether there is any possibility of a counter coup. I don't see one happening in a hurry, and I don't see the army going against the people for any length of time. I think they have no choice but to favor the new government, such as has been suggested. As far as the president is concerned, he needs to be replaced ASAP as soon as he appoints the new prime minister.
Okay, all right. There's an interesting development, Gautam, and let's bring it to our viewers' notice. The Gen Z protesters that have been leading Nepal's protests have now issued an appeal. They have urged the demonstrators to remain calm, avoid damaging public property. They claim that the government has been brought to its knees following Prime Minister KP Oli's resignation, which has opened the way for a new political solution. A letter has been issued. It has been circulating on social media. It calls for the formation of a civilian government led by a universally acceptable leader and stresses the need for unity and patience to ensure a secure future and lay the foundation for lasting change in Nepal. These youth have been emphasizing that peaceful action will help shape the country's new political path. So, Gautam, do you think better sense seems to be at this point in time prevailing, that these protesters are appealing for calm and peace from these violent demonstrators who have burnt down these public offices, the Supreme Court, the Parliament, residences of these leaders, talking about what they had intended to achieve, which was the resignation of the Prime Minister has already been done, and now there is a need for bringing a new leader who's going to take charge of the country?
Well, it's not enough to wait. If you wait, you're going to get factionalism. It is important to appoint the new prime minister, who has the support of all the protesters, such as they are, including the violent ones. There should be a general amnesty declared. against any form of prosecution or punishment for those who have indulged in arson, loot, and murder, because this is a revolution, no less. And they must be given the protection of the law and the country. Now, this is something that all this can happen once the Prime Minister is appointed. And without that, if it hangs in the air for consensus and so on, the unrest could go on.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Then this is an indication, because that's why there are these clarion calls being made by these people, these youth, because at this point demonstrators have reportedly set fire to the media houses as well. In Nepal, there are a huge number of protesters that have vandalized media institutions in Kathmandu. This has happened in Kantipur, as there are anti-government protests that continue to escalate the country. So, you know, after the official residences of the leaders, of the ministers, the key national institutions, it is the turn of the media houses to bear the brunt. But what wrong have the media houses done for the protesters to attack them?
Well, Megha, I think what wrong they have done is not right now. It is to do with the support they must have furnished to the government in the past. They are seen as being in cahoots with the former government that has been deposed, and probably corrupt in terms of their reporting and the reasons for their reporting. So that is why they, the protesters are attacking them in a targeted manner. Here again, there are reporters and reporters, some who have leaned towards the old regime will have to go. New people will take their place. This is a full-fledged revolution. It may be a small country, but from everything you're telling me, this is not something that is half-baked or, sectional or sporadic. Because it's a small country, you take over Kathmandu, you take over Pokhara, you've basically taken over the country. And that is what has happened.
Right.
But the army and the armed forces, that's the question mark in my head. I haven't heard much about that. And that is the main fulcrum on which the whole thing can turn, besides the judiciary. Because I think the government has been effectively destroyed. If the media is also, at least the ancien regime media has also been destroyed, that leaves the armed forces and the judiciary. Where are they thinking? What are they saying? Where do they lean?
Right, absolutely. Thank you, Gautam, for joining me on the telecast, sharing inputs on this developing story. There is a hope that at this point of time persists, that the violence will quell, especially after the resignation of K.P. Oli, the Prime Minister of Nepal, against whom people have risen in large numbers on the streets. Destruction of property, 22 people have died, and chaos has ensued in Nepal.